All right, let's move on and talk about Tiana's Bayou adventure. I think that I think somebody from New Orleans should say where you can't understand it, like in Waterboy.
Nolans?
You go, Tiana Bayou adventure. Remember that guy, the coach?
Yes,
Yeah,
I do.
I feel like everybody from New Orleans hates me right now. So, all right. Well, we went in for AP previews.
Okay, before we go any further, there will be spoilers about the ride. So if you don't want to hear anything about it, then just earmuffs.
Yes, earmuffs for a little bit.
For just like 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, so last Thursday, we went for the annual pass holder previews. And this was the first time using the virtual queue system. So I was just kind of like, okay, I don't know how fast this is going to go. I don't know how competitive this is going to be. Like, I don't know how this is going to work. So the queue was actually open for like 2 hours after it went live at 7 a.m., which was crazy. But we got group 6. But the ride was experiencing a delayed opening, and we didn't get actually called to go ride until 11:40 that morning. We should have been like 9 a.m. or 9:15 at the very latest, but it did not open right away. So our son did not want to ride, so Jared decided that he was going to stay back with him, and so my mom and daughter and I, we rode first, and then the plan was for Jared and I to ride second. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, in shocking fashion, this ride has had issues with staying running.
We will discuss this in depth, won't we?
I guess so. I guess Jamie wants me to wait before I talk about this. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what order do you want to go in then?
Let's talk about the queue. What do you think about the queue?
I liked the queue. It was well done. Again, I'm not going to act like I know a lot about Princess and the Frog, but it was well themed. They kind of had a backstory there with like some stuff with Tiana and her dad. Kind of had like you see like a front office, the kitchen. You can see her like making beignets. Like it was all the stuff like that was building. It did a good job of building a backstory to the ride, I will say.
Yeah,
they had a lot of music playing in it. Very bright. It was brighter than I thought it would be in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, like it's basically she's opened a co-op restaurant called Tiana's Foods, and you need to know this to understand what's going on in the ride, kind of. Because that's the reason for what you do in the ride. Does that make sense?
I mean, yes.
Okay.
I will say I think I will say about this ride, you have to pay attention to really understand the story on this.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you don't pay attention, then you're not going to.
I love that about theme park rides. You got to really take notes.
But my favorite part of the queue was the area with the family memorabilia, where you could see like pictures of her father, and like he was like in war, and then you see him writing letters to her. Yeah. And then signed Daddy on the bottom. I was like, oh, this is so sweet. That was definitely my favorite part. And then you come to the salt mines, which is supposed to be serving as the headquarters of the new restaurant. Which, can you explain what a salt mine is, please?
I mean, it's where you mine salt.
Okay, but like, so are they plentiful in Louisiana?
As of my understanding, no.
Okay.
I don't think there's many salt mines you're going to find in Louisiana or mountains per se. But
okay, all right.
We're not going to talk. I've said my piece about how I felt like this ride was a little bit forced in this area, but it's here. But I don't believe. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not going to act like I'm a salt mine expert, but I don't believe there's a lot of salt mines in Louisiana. No, I don't think
Fair
so.
enough.
But
and then you get on to the ride after this. But like, there's a lot to look at in the queue, but nothing is interactive, which is fine.
I was a little surprised by that, considering some of the later, like the newer ones we've seen of interactive queues. But I will say the queue was well done. I like the queue a lot. Yeah,
it's really good. It's really good. And the music is good too throughout. So I like that.
All right. Well, let's talk about the ride itself. So, I guess we'll go. You rode it.
I did.
I guess that's where we can spill it. So when I went to ride it, I only got to ride about a third of it. And then it went down again. So I can talk about a third of it. I did watch some POVs, so I do know what happens in this, so I can speak to it from that perspective, but I can't speak to it firsthand. I was going to wait until I experienced the whole thing, but on the day we rode this, we finally got to go on around 11-something. It went down while we were on it, and then it didn't reopen that day until like 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it's had issues with this ongoing. Even as of today, I think it was down for most of the day. So it's had these ongoing issues. My from what I've heard, there's sensors involved because instead of just having the animatronic looping, just on time, there's a sensor that I guess is trying to time the animatronics with boats. And I guess there's issues with that sensor or sensors. I don't know all the specifics, but apparently it is something along those lines.
So it's the same ride system that Splash had, but it works in conjunction with the animatronics, like Jared said. Splash it was almost like a record.
It just went in a loop.
It just kept going and never stopped. Like the animatronics did the same thing over and over again, no matter who was going by. So that's the complexity of this new system. It's a sensor that is tripped whenever.
I'm surprised it doesn't have like a B mode, where if that sensor trips, it just defaults into just going into a loop. But apparently it does not. Because we were on it. I mean, Tiana started talking, and then she just went completely dead, and it was really kind of creepy.
She stopped moving,
and then all the lights came on, and so we were evacuated off. And I know people think that sounds exciting. It's really not. The backstage we did the Keys of the Kingdom tour and saw the same stuff we were back there with, but you did see where they have the floats for the parade.
Yes, we did see that. We
sat there for about 15, 20 minutes, I'd say, before we got escorted off. But yeah, that part happened. It's happening to a lot of people, but we will talk about the ride here. So,
okay.
I guess let you take it.
Okay.
You can start it, and then I'll just add in where I want to add in.
Okay. So here's the story of the ride. If you're unfamiliar with the exact story, here it is. So around a year after the events of Princess and the Frog, so about 1927, Tiana's Foods is booming and Mardi Gras is near. Tiana needs to find musicians for the big Mardi Gras party, so we are tasked, the guests, are tasked with finding these musical critters. Now, in fact, the first animatronic of Tiana, she says, quote, "Let's meet up with Louis to find musicians for our party. Look out, Bayou, here we come." That's what she says. So immediately okay, we're helping find these musical critters. You hear songs like "Down in New Orleans," "Almost There," "Gonna Take You There," "Dig a Little Deeper," and "Special Spice," is just that new song. So basically there are 3 sections of this ride. So the first section is you're given the task to find the critters while exploring the bayou, and then you find a bunch. Basically, you're like, oh, these will work. Oh, how about these? That basically is what you're going through. Then the second part, you shrink down to the size of a frog by Mama Odie. And then the third part, you rise back up in time for the Mardi Gras party and the final scene in the Fleur de Bayou. So those are the 3 sections of the ride. Mm-hmm. He saw right before you see Mama Odie, right before the frogs. So he got the first third.
I did.
Of the ride. Based on what you saw, what did you think? I mean, I know this is hard, but what did you think of it?
So I'll talk about based on what I saw personally and then what I saw POV wise. So personally, first, the animatronics are really good.
Yes, they are.
They're very good.
Yes.
So there's a few Tiana ones multiple times. So
yes, I
would say those are updated ones. So that was really good. The music's good. I did enjoy the music.
It's fun. You can dance to it.
I mean, it definitely I will say it does create sort of like a party atmosphere. So I get what they were going for that, which I think it works. It had a lot of colors, which was nice.
Mm-hmm. The fireflies.
Well, they implemented a lot. I think it's very similar to Navi River, where they use a lot of those. It's screens, but it looks like you're in, it's like those light up leaves and things. I think they use a lot of that on this in parts. Now, I do agree. I've heard a lot of people's complain about this, and I would agree with this. There's a lot of dead spaces where there's not a lot going on, where they rely on the music and or these sort of visuals of the critters in the woods and the light up areas, the fireflies. But it's definitely because you just go through areas so there's nothing going on for a little bit.
It's like wasted space.
A little bit.
I thought it lacked that too.
So I feel like there's a little bit of that, but again, it's not like you're on there for like an hour doing that. There were parts that use screens. So the only thing I would say is you have a lot of animatronics, and there's parts where they use screens instead of animatronics. Like there's one where you've got Tiana and Louis, excuse me.
Yeah.
But the animatronic is right after that screen. So I kind of felt it was weird to be like, here's an animatronic, here's a screen of them doing that, and then there's another animatronic. So I kind of felt like it should have all just been animatronics in that view. At least on that part. Again, that's being nitpicky, admittedly. But I was just sort of like, oh, okay. I didn't really understand why they would do it that way.
Yeah.
But all in all, what I saw, it was fine. I liked the music of it. Now, what I saw from the POV, I think all of that theming, a little bit of those dead spaces, carries through it. And then the final scene is really cool with all those characters in there, which some of this stuff was, Disney had already put out before. But I think the final scene was good. Had the music and all the animatronics in there. So all in all, I think it's fine. I mean, I don't, in terms of like, well, here, give your thoughts and we'll give final thoughts. So I thought it was fine. I had a few things about some of the dead spaces and little things here and there, but overall, I think the animatronics were really good. The music was good, and it was, for what I got to ride, it was fun. But what did you think?
Yeah, animatronics were amazing. Loved those. Music was great. The end scene was super pretty. Lots going on. Now, when we went by, Tiana was moving, but one of the women, what's her name? I forgot her name. The blonde girl in the movie. Don't quote me on this. I don't know her name.
I don't know her name.
She was not moving. So I've heard this can happen. There's some animatronics that are just like frozen, not moving for whatever reason, because of the sensor. But anyway, lots going on there. It was great. And then the big drop always is fun. We didn't get really wet, but we were also sitting in the back. If you were sitting in the front row, you're going to get soaked. Just FYI.
Was it always like that?
So they have turned the cannons off that make you extra wet.
Oh, that's right.
When you go down, they turn those off. But when you come down from the top, the force of the log flume, or whatever you call it, the log vehicle, it sprays you like right in the front. So like if you're in the front row, it's gonna spray you in the face and more. So we were in the back and we didn't get hardly anything.
Okay.
So it was great. I liked the exterior of the ride. I thought they decorated it beautifully. Whether it's supposed to be like, the Bayou swamp versus like Splash Mountain setup, like, okay, whatever. But I didn't like the red clay mountain look with the sticks. You know what I'm talking about? The sticks that came out of the ground.
Thorns.
Yeah. And the
briar patch.
Yeah. I didn't like that as much. I like this. Tiana's is much better. It's like lush with like greenery and flowers, and it has the water tower over there. Like I like that so much better. And I already talked about the fireflies, but
yeah, I mean it looks cool at night. I don't know if I like the overgrown. Like I feel like there's too much. It almost looks like an overgrown like what Splash Mountain would look like during a zombie apocalypse. Like everything's just overgrown on it a little bit. Like there's so much green on it. Not saying it looks bad, but just it's a lot. But I think it probably aesthetically looks better. Just from I would agree. They just having that brown area there, but it looks fine. I think I've seen it at night. It looks really cool at night.
It looks
with
beautiful.
all the lights, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have major and I will say one thing I don't quite understand about this ride is why Dr. Facilier was not involved. And I've heard some people say that Disney has stated internally that, he's problematic because they want to stay away from anything to do with like gods or religion. And his whole thing is voodoo. And my whole thing is, well, you use him a lot in the Halloween party. So he's clearly somebody he is popular and people use, they use him to promote a Halloween party. He's involved in that. So I don't know why you couldn't use him here, but you could use him in the Halloween party. And then some people have said, well, he's no longer part of the story because this story takes place after, the movie, which I would go into. I just wish Disney would get back to just putting, doing rides where you're just doing scenes from the movies that you know and love. And then you can include characters like Dr. Facilier, or if you're doing Beauty and the Beast, you could do like Gaston. He's a popular villain, things like that. So I would say I think he needed to be in this. I think it would have been better. I think you could have put him before you go up the hill. Kind of being this ominous, like, oh, there's something looming. Like I think he would have added to a better story to the ride.
If it was a retelling. If it was a retelling, yes.
Well, I feel like it. I don't know. To me,
you're not retelling.
I get it, but I like the idea of retelling stories versus trying to create new stories for theme park rides in general. But
there you go.
That's just saying. I think he would have been a good addition to this. For whatever reason, he's not involved. But I think that would have been because again, that's one of the most popular things from that movie is Dr. Facilier to this day.
Yeah.
So
people like it.
Yeah. I mean, all in all, from what I saw, it's fine. Now, in terms of everyone wants to know this versus Splash Mountain, what would you say?
Do I like it better than Splash Mountain? Not yet. No. I like Splash Mountain better. For numerous reasons, but honestly, that's okay. Like I still like this ride.
You don't have to defend yourself.
No,
Like what
I'm
you
not.
like.
I'm totally not defending myself. What I'm saying is, like, I can like both.
No, you can't. This is the
Yes, I
internet.
can.
Make a choice.
Yes, I can. I like Splash Mountain.
Fight or flight.
I like Splash Mountain. I also like this. So I'm happy either way. Now this is not a ride I'm going to do every time I go to Magic Kingdom, and this is not a ride I'm going to do when it's chilly outside. So like, you're probably not going to catch me riding it between like November and like February. So when it's hotter, maybe. But it's still a water ride, and there's still the chance that you might get wet. You might get your clothes wet, your socks wet, etc. So that will keep me from riding this over and over again. Not like I do like with Guardians of the Galaxy, where I would ride that every time if I could. So, like I said, I still like it. I just don't like it as much as Splash. I still like it though. However, the virtual queue and the malfunctions of the ride and the breakdowns and everything, they have got to figure that out.
I was saying they got to get that ironed out.
Because it is, as of the episode coming out is the 20th, they've got like a week to get it all sorted out, and it's not getting better. It's still so many breakdowns every day. In fact, today, when we're recording this on Tuesday, they did not open the 1 p.m. virtual queue for boarding groups. They just didn't offer it because at 6 p.m. I think they were just now calling the like boarding group 15 from the 7 a.m. drop. So I mean, like, they're just experiencing so many problems. They were doing it all through the AP previews on Thursday, on Friday, on Sunday. It's inconsistent with its reliability, and once they figure that out, it'll be great. But like, if you're gonna go in the next couple weeks, months, whatever, expect it to not be fully operational. Like, expect to go into this ride seeing animatronics that aren't working, or seeing the mouse not moving but their hands moving, or something like that. The screens aren't working in the frog part. So I mean, that's just what I gotta say.
I guess I don't know. Part of me, I'm just like, what? How do they not work this out before they get this far? It has been a known problem, and I think it's also sad too that this is now something that's like, well, like you just said. Well, just if you're going to ride this, be expected that parts of it aren't going to work. I think that's kind of sad. I think that's more of again, we talked about with Communicore Hall and this, I think it's more of where Imagineering is right now. And that this is, I don't feel like this is something, no, I'm not saying rides don't ever go down. I'm not saying that there was never issues before, but I feel like for the most part, when there's a known issue with a ride, this would have been worked out in the past more. I mean, and if they have a sense of this not working and you continually have the issue, I don't know. I mean, either get new sensors or have a B mode or do something different. Like, just hoping that it's working, because clearly something's not working. I think.
Well, it's also the amount of downtime when it does go down. You have to evacuate, and I guess it's like a hard reset they have to do that takes a long time.
Well, that's what I was saying. Every time it goes down, it's closed down for hours. So
I don't know.
They got to get that worked out.
Yeah.
But again, as the ride is, I mean, versus Splash Mountain versus this. Again, I was never the biggest Splash Mountain fan. I'm not a big water ride fan in general.
Yeah.
I don't really like being wet other than if I'm going to go swimming. I don't like being splashed either. So, I'm not probably the best judge of this ride, and I didn't have a big allegiance to Splash Mountain. I don't have a big allegiance to Tiana. In terms of liking which one better, I probably enjoyed, it could be nostalgia. I like Splash probably a bit more, but I didn't get to experience all of Tiana. So I can't, my view on this is obviously skewed from it being shut down and being evacuated off of it. But as I said, it's fine. It's kind of what I figured it would be. It's like, it's the same type of ride, just different animatronics and different music and things like that. It was fun, the parts that I got to do, but I'll ride it again. And if something changes, I'll let you guys know. But I think it's probably basic exactly what I anticipated it would be.
Yeah.
And then I think ultimately this ends up being probably the exact same as Splash Mountain in terms of demand for it after this all settles down. It's a water ride. It does limit how much people want to ride it. And you're not, like you were saying, you're not going to want to ride this in January.
Probably not.
Most people are not going to. So I think it definitely has a ceiling in terms of the amount of people that will, eventually. Now, obviously, when it first opens, it's different. But eventually, once, a year later, I kind of feel like it'll settle right into where Splash Mountain was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It was a good time. I had a great time on the ride. It's fun. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Those are our thoughts.